is Sin. I'm an adult services librarian at the Simsbury Public Library. And over the next several weeks, I will be guiding you through our Visible Mending Series. I am a beginner as well, so we'll be learning together to mend different types of clothing, learn some new stitches and techniques, all that a beginner can do to mend some of your special pieces of clothing. So let's find out what visible mending is all about. Visible mending highlights the repairs you make to your clothing in a visual and creative way. It's also part of the slow fashion movement, which emphasizes caring for your clothing for as long as possible. You'll see as we follow the series along that it's a mindful practice and it takes time to complete each project. So be patient with yourself. Okay, before we begin our first project, I wanted to share some of the materials we have at the library if you want to read more about visible mending and the culture that surrounds the movement. The first book covers hand sewing techniques as well as machine stitching with lots of photographs to illustrate the mending. Mending Matters is a modern mending project manual where the author connects each of the projects with a mindful relationship to fashion. Wear, Repair, and Repurpose is a young, stylish guide to mending and slow fashion philosophy. Lily has a really great Instagram feed, as do many of the authors of the books I'm sharing, so I will put their handles in the resources section. The last book in this page is Boro and Seshiko, which is a traditional technique in Japan, and we will touch on these techniques, but in a much less traditional sense for beginners. Make Thrift Mend is a follow-up to Mending Matters by the same author, which has more projects and includes darning and dyeing fabrics. Mend It, Wear It, Love It is a great book for beginners with colorful and easy to understand techniques and illustrations. Sashiko for Making and Mending is another book that shares the traditional Sashiko techniques with several projects to try. And Project 333 is about a challenge to wear just 33 items in 3 months and how it affects your thoughts and your closet. These other books are supplemental to Visible Mending: How to Pick Colors, a reference of stitches, some fun embroidery designs, and a teen guide to minimalism. For the general tools that you'll need for visible mending, I have here some cotton thread. This is size 5. It's embroidery thread, so it's a little thicker. And I bought white and gray, but you can really branch out and get any colors that you prefer. I also have some regular sewing thread, and we'll use this for basting and other uses like that to keep things in place. A pair of sharp scissors, that's essential. I keep these sequestered from the rest of the people I live with so that they always stay sharp and I know where they are at all times. Embroidery needles. I bought this pack at the local craft store. This is the DMC brand. They are numbers 1 through 5, so there are a variety of sizes and lengths for different fabrics that we'll be working with. Fabric scraps. I am lucky enough to know someone who has a sewing business. I asked her for her fabric scraps, so she was kind enough to share all these great fabric scraps with me. If you know someone like that, it would be great. I also picked up this pack of quilting squares. These are 5-inch square variety packs. I think they come in all kinds of different colors and textures, so if this is something that you want, just search for quilting squares either in your local craft store or online. And I like the blue. I thought we could use it with the denim repairs that we'll be doing. You can also have a thimble on hand for sewing. It can protect your fingers if you're doing a lot of mending. Sometimes you need a needle nose pliers for certain heavier fabrics. I don't think we'll be using any fabrics that heavy that you'll need those, but that is something that you could have on hand, as well as a straight edge or a ruler that can come in handy for measuring things, or if you need a straight edge for some of the projects that we're using. I sometimes just use a piece of paper if I don't have a straight edge on hand, so that'll work too. But if you have a ruler, that's great. Getting started with our pincushion mending kit, I'll let you know what you need. We did give out these take and make bags at the library, but if you were not able to get those before they ran out, I'll show you what's inside, and you should be able to create your own mending kit without having the take and make bag. A 5-inch square piece of fabric. We're using these pin drop ones, which I think are pretty cute. Some regular thread, sewing thread. We have a 2.5-inch felt circle. And then you'll have your own jar. This is a regular size, it's not a wide mouth. And it's a 2-part lid. And you can use a taller jar if you'd like. This was the size that we used for the take and makes, but a taller jar is fine as long as it's a regular mouth with a 2-part lid. And we also gave some straight pins and a couple of our needles of different sizes. I think there's a 2-inch and a 2.5-inch. As well as some embroidery floss in white, and then a thimble to protect our fingers, and the jar, of course. So that's what you'll need to create your mending kit. One thing I forgot to share is that you need some filling to make your pincushion top. I'm using polyfill, but you can use cotton or wool. Some people use walnut shells, but I think those are a little too messy for me. I don't think I'm coordinated enough to make sure those stay inside while we're creating this. So first step we're going to do is take our 5-inch square fabric, and we're just going to round off the corners with our sharp scissors. Okay, and you'll do that for every corner. I don't want to take up too much time trimming the corners. So you're just going to round it off on each side. For your felt round or circle, if you didn't get the take and make, we can easily make one. We'll use the lid as our guide. Just take a Sharpie or some other kind of pen, and you can draw around. This is going to cover the bottom, and you'll see that shortly. So we trace that, and then we can also cut that out. Okay, so I'm going to cut those two things at high speed. So I have already threaded my needle, and I'm going to say this is about 2 feet, 24 inches of thread doubled. And to make your knot, I don't know if you've ever made a knot, I wrap it around my finger and you put it through to knot it. We can double knot it because we don't want it to go through the fabric. We want it to stay. It's not quite a double knot, so let's try that one more time. Oh, that's a pretty good knot. Okay, so what we're going to start with is we're going to do a running stitch, which is where you put your needle in about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect. So we're going to go all the way around our round piece of fabric. See how I'm putting the needle in and out. This is called a running stitch. Here, I'll pull it through so you can see what it looks like. See, there's the knot that we made right at the end. And we're going to do that all the way around. And again, so you don't have to watch me do this, I will do a little time lapse and come back and explain the rest. Okay, so this is my knotted end, and then this is my thread that's still connected to my needle and goes all the way around. And you can see it's not perfectly 1/4 inch around, but it's a round shape, and that's what we need. So we're going to flip it this way, and now we're just going to pull a little bit on that needle connected thread, so we make a kind of like a little bowl. Not too tight, because we gotta put our polyfill in there. So you're gonna, whatever you're stuffing it with, you're going to make that as small as possible in your hand. Put it right in the center. Okay, and this is where we have to kind of fudge around, because we are going to put the lid part of our 2-part mason jar. This is the lid portion. We want to put it like this, right on top of the fill. Okay, and then we're going to pull this other thread tightly around there. Might have to move things around just so that it's in the center. Hard to see with my hands in the way. So what we're trying to accomplish is pulling this thread tightly around so that it snugs up all the fabric around that lid, so that it looks like this on the other side, so you have that cushy fill put your pins in once we get the top together. Okay, once you're satisfied that it's centered and it's tight enough, what we're going to do is we're going to actually put a stitch in there. Make sure you can see that. Just to tighten it up and then knot it up. Stick through, putting it through a few layers of the fabric so that we can tighten that up. And then we're going to put the needle through again, pretty much the same way. And then to create our knot, see how there is a loop, make that clear. It's the loop of fabric. You're going to put your needle through that loop to get your knot. So as you pull it tight, it makes a knot. Okay. Now that it's kind of secure and we don't have to hold it, there we go. We're ready to snip this off because now it's holding our fabric is holding its place over the lid. Let's see, we have a poofy top, which is what we're looking for. Okay, so we're gonna snip this off and we're gonna leave the basting in because the felt circle is gonna cover that. So the needles that we provided in the Take and Makes have a large opening. And this needle is the 2-inch needle. So we are going to thread the embroidery thread through this. And you'll see, maybe, there are about 3 threads twisted together. It's usually what you get with embroidery thread. And this is much easier with a needle threader, but I don't have one, so with the big openings in the needles, you should be able to thread it fairly easily. So I'm going to make a knot, just like we did in our sewing thread, except with this one, just need 1 knot because of the thickness of the thread. Right. Try to get it as close to the end as possible. All right, so this is the round that I hand cut, and this is the round that was in the Take and Makes. For the hand cut one, you remember I traced around the lid, and then I cut around the inside so that the circle is about a little less than the lid, because we want to pop this lid into the ring, which I will show you that after we do our whip stitch. All right, so to start the whip stitch, we're going to hide our knot. So we're going to put it underneath, kind of near our basting line. So we're just going to make a little stitch in there. Just hold the fabric so we can pull it through. See, there's our knot, and we're going to hide it with the felt. All right. Now for the whip stitch, you want to start a tiny bit in front of what you're attaching, and you're going to go through that fabric, under, and then about 1/4 inch into the felt. So it's a little bit forward of the fabric of the felt round, and then 1/4 inch under, so that you're grabbing both the fabric and the felt with your needle. Okay, and that's just your first stitch. We're gonna kind of hide that under there, and then start our whip stitch for real now. So we're gonna go a little ahead of the felt, under about 1/4 inch, through the felt, and pull through. That's really going to make our first whip stitch. And see how it kind of runs over? It's supposed to be visible, which is what we're going for. All right, let's try that again. A little forward. The felt about 1/4 inch, pull through, okay, and And we are going for a bit of symmetry here. Again, not perfection, just a little bit of the same. So we want to shoot for here, right? So we're going to go for a little in front. Grab the fabric with our needle, 1/4 inch. So I'm sure the more practiced we all get, I'm sure the faster the stitching's gonna go. But again, it is a mindful kind of practice. If you feel like putting music on or listening to an audiobook or a podcast, I'm sure that would be, or even just, you know, meditate if that's something that you enjoy doing. This can be very meditative because it is a repeated process that you can kind of get lost in. See how that's going? And you do see how slow I'm doing it because I have not practiced this. And, you know, so I'm being very careful where I place my needle. Just doing it slowly. And there we go. So hopefully you get the concept of going around with your whip stitch. I'm hoping I have enough thread to get all the way around. I'm gonna actually do the time lapse now, and you'll see very quickly whether I measured the thread to be long enough. So let's get to that. Okay, so you're gonna see that yes, I did not thread my needle with enough thread to get all the way around. I got about a little more than halfway. So I'm gonna have to knot that and secure it underneath the felt round so I hide it. But yeah, you can see that you know, some stitches are better than others, but I really do like the look of it, and it's gonna look pretty cool when it gets all the way around. So let me show you, just in case you do the same thing that I do. I'm gonna go underneath and put a little stitch under the felt. And then hopefully I have enough here. I'm gonna go back in. Make a loop. So I'm gonna do something you probably shouldn't do, is put my needle through backwards. Snip that. Pull it with my hand tightly. So I will rethread this with enough floss to get through the whole project, and I will show you that in time lapse again. Okay, so I'm ready to do my last stitch. As you can see, I got back in the groove here, you know, when I had to switch my threads, they're a little not as symmetrical, but you know, again, that's fine. So we're going to do our same stitch, but we're going to come back through very close to where our last stitch came through the felt. Right? Okay, so we'll make that stitch. And then we're going to go back through on the other side here. Tiny little stitch. I can pull that through right here where your last stitch is. Okay. Then we're going to go under. Like between the fabrics. Kind of back toward where your thread is coming out, because we want to make a loop. So there we go. And again, I made the rookie mistake of not having enough thread at the end. So I am going to this backwards through so I can get my knot. Close to that knot as possible. There's probably a way to hide the knot underneath. I'm not sure how you do that but I don't mind it. All right, so that is finished. We're going to pop it through our lid. Give it a good push. Hear that, but it is settling in there, and there is going to be, you know, the fabric here takes up a little space on the threads, so once we fill our jar back up, some of our mending, well, let's take out a couple pins. Stitches, yay! I think you're gonna have to put a little pressure to get it to thread back on, but see, that's secure just with the excess fabric in there. Put our pins in. There we go. It's a finished project. Let's see what we're going to do in our next video.